Welcome to the All About Ability podcast. Yes, I nailed it. We've had a wee bit of a break the past few months, but we're back and we're ready to go again. And I'm really looking forward to the next few weeks in podcast. We're going to be back every Tuesday, 5 o'clock. Make sure to like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we're going to have some good content coming your way, so stay tuned. Wait, what was that? What was I going to do there? No,
What a way to start, that's a way to do it, my boy.
I was like, before we started recording, I was like, I'm going to see if I sound okay here, but we're just going to go right into it. Okay, so I can't remember the last time I did a podcast in the AM. So anyone that looks at me and thinks I'm tired, I am, and I'm sorry.
We're shattered.
But I've got the one half of the PG and Daks podcast. We don't have PG on because we're more of an R-rated podcast, to be fair. So
no, we don't. We want to keep the viewers interested, mate. So we didn't want to bring Snoozing Boyle up here.
Yeah, I'm saying nothing, man. This is your beef, not mine.
No, I'm going for him, man. Today, I'm not holding back in that, boy.
No, we've got hundreds of things we can talk about, man. But I tell you what, you're the definition of life coming at you fast, because last time I seen you, you had no hair and.
What's that? 3 minutes or not even 2 minutes and we've already addressed it.
And see now, the thing that pisses me off about it is you got a better fucking hairline than me.
Thing is, but at least yours is still real, do you know what I mean? one gust of wind and I'm chasing mines down the street.
It doesn't matter, mate. Nothing. You don't need to be real now. You just need to be Instagram ready, and you're Instagram ready, mate.
Honestly, man, I feel like a new man, Kieran, honestly. New Barnet, my missus actually loves me again, do you know what I mean? She's like, she's actually like, I share the same bed as us and that, do you know what I mean? So, no, it's been some change, but I've been delighted with it, mate. It's gave me a wee jag, a wee new lease of life, mate, as if I needed it anyway, but I've went for the bald, fat Dan out nursery to hopefully the old Dilf walking in. So, nah, it's all good, mate, it's all good.
Definitely, mate, you can tell it works. So, a lot has been made about the fact that we went to the same school.
Aye.
So I thought we'd make, as one famous podcast, obviously, I thought I'd take you back to the start, bro.
Take it back to the start, mate. Take it back to the start.
And, you know, I've kind of, because you've been involved in football for a long time and you've done a lot of, I mean, your whole podcast is everything to do with every kind of football. And I just was curious about how high school might have shaped something like that and how your kind of time there was.
Oh. Aye, the old Tumble boys are representing the podcast game, isn't they? There's quite a few years now. I don't know what it is, but no, just football's been massive for us, Kieran. It's always been the big thing in my life, and the boys I kind of hang about with in school and that, they were all big football boys as well. So no, we just used to, that was everything back in the day. I don't see it as much now anymore. Like, you used to go out during your summer holidays and you'd go out as soon as it was light. And that would be you right through to night time. You would miss your dinner and everything. Your ma would be screaming out the back door, Ryan, Anton, that's my brother. And we used to be out there morning to night, kicking a ball about and playing World Cuppy and things like that, and two-touch and all that, and even just kicking a ball off a wall and stuff like that. And it was always a big thing. So for me to go into a podcast talking about football, it's something I find really easy, mate, because as I said, it's something that's been a massive part of my life. My missus absolutely hates football, and that's how I need to go to the podcast. I can't talk about football in the house. I've got two lassies in the house, my daughter and my wife, and they absolutely despise it. So it's good to sit down with people and talk about football. But no, it's just been playing with school teams and all that in Tumble, and playing with West Park, who were the local team in Bishop Briggs, and I'm still pals with a lot of the boys that I went through school with and stuff like that. So nah, mate, it just shaped it in that way. Football was a big thing. I always felt as if I went to Tumble and I didn't know anybody, because I moved to a different area into Bishop Briggs and I didn't know one person in the school. So football was massive for me, because that was my in to try and get to know people and get pally with people. And if I didn't have that in common with a lot of people at school, then I would have probably found it tough to settle in at Tumble, because, as I said, I never knew anybody. So my way in was playing football at lunchtime, talking to people, and then I left the boys' club I was at and joined West Parks. It was a local club and it was all Turnbull boys and that. So for me, it was massive because I could have found school and secondary school really difficult, mate. And I always get a laugh with my best mate Grimmy. I always say to him, I remember because I was getting a wee bit. It was a wee bit. Could have went a wee bit bullying because nobody really knew me, and you're only just went into school and. I had sideys, man, when I was 12, know what I mean? So I had sideys and pure big hair and that, so I was like an easy target, do you know what I mean? And then he kind of took me under his wing because he remembered me. Used to play against his team, and he took me under his wing, kind of, and we're still best mates to this day. And I put it all down to football, mate. I put it a lot of it down to the football and the people you meet, and I'm pals with most people I meet in the game. I try and stay in touch with as many people as possible, so I owe a lot to football, mate. Do you know what I mean? It's gave me so much, mate.
It just shows you how important it is socially off the pitch as well, you know.
Massive, mate. You know that yourself. You're involved in it as well, and you meet pals for life. And I've always like, you still text people, you still try and catch up with people as much as you can. It's that's what's massive for football. Some of my best memories. My best memories in life has all came through football and in a dressing room. Do you know what I mean? I'm a people's player. I pure feed off of energy off people and all that. And there's no very many better feelings than being in a dressing room or being part of a team with your pals and the boys. I think it's just, and being in that dressing room, the camaraderie, the banter. Like, see some of the stuff we've been up to here. And I mean, it's absolute madness, mate. But it's always funny. It's like you used to turn up to football and we all started driving and that, and boys would be in training, other boys would be sitting in the physio room and you would be taking their motor keys out their pocket and going hiding their motor about a mile away and coming back to training and they couldn't find their motor and all that. Do you know what I mean? Just pure daft things and the night suit and all that. Because that's what it leads to, football, I always think. I think you get tight with people, you get close with guys and it ends up falling onto, you socialise with them. So you end up night suit, you end up going on holidays with the boys and stuff like that. So you end up making so many memories. But no, I owe everything to football, and it's something that I love it. Do you know what I mean? I've been involved since I've been about 5, mate. So I'd love it, mate.
Amazing, man. That's a great answer, to be fair. I don't even know what to
feels weird sitting at this side, mate, honestly, man.
This guy is weird. This is going to be a scoosh, man.
Now I know how the guests feel, man. I'm pure sweating it out here.
No, you're doing well so far. Like, you've actually done better in the first 5 minutes than some of the guests I've had on before, so fair play. But
as long as I'm not the worst, mate, you know what I mean?
No, but like you say, mate, it's all about the community, and something that you were saying there about when you went to school, about how it was like important for you to actually have something to relate to people through football, and it made me kind of wonder, like, see, as a coach now, is that something that kind of is the back of your mind in terms of being inclusive and helping people that are kind of struggling and getting them involved in the game?
Aye, massive for me, Kieran. I like to try. All coaches are different and managers are different and stuff like that. But the way I like to try and work with players and work with people is I like to try and get to know everybody. Do you know what I mean? I like to try and give everybody the time of the day. Anytime I've been coaching or that, if it's been a player that's not really featured much, I still try and give them as much time as what I would give somebody that's playing every week and scoring goals and getting all the headlines, because I feel it's important that you need to let everybody feel the love. You know what I mean? It's important that you talk to people. I'm dead big on the dressing room and getting to know everybody. Like, I would like to think and hope that anybody that's played in the same team as us, or as a teammate and as a coach or assistant manager, that they could pick up the phone and speak to me about anything. Do you know what I mean? I'll always be there for people as a pal. Obviously, I know that there's boundaries when it comes to football. Unfortunately, you need to make decisions. The manager needs to make decisions that's going to upset people. But I'd like to hope that if anybody was going through a hard time, that they could speak to me, because first and foremost, I want boys to know that they can speak to me with confidentiality, that I'll not go and speak to anybody else about it. And I'd like to hope that boys would lean on me or just like to speak to me, because I could hopefully give good advice and be a good person to talk to. And that's the way I'm in my life. I don't have very many people I don't get on with. I like to try and make effort with people, and I think that you do that and you make people feel feel good about themselves and you make people feel, as a coach, if I can make somebody feel 10 foot tall, then they're going to run through a brick wall for me on a Saturday, or they're going to knock their pan in for us. And I felt as if we've kind of had success in the coaching, and that's what I was like in the dressing room as well. I always liked to, when I was a player, I wasn't the best player, but what I did think I brought to teams was there was hunters and hunters are better goalkeepers than me, but what I thought I brought to dressing rooms was I would always be good in the dressing room. I would always be good to try and get everybody smiling, everybody laughing, try and keep everybody tight, organise the nights out and all that. And as a coach, I'm quite similar. Maybe I can't be up to quite as much as a madness as what I used to be, but I like to try and get round about everybody and take an interest in all the players and try and even get to know a wee bit about their personal life. If somebody's maybe missus is pregnant and things like that, how's the family, how's your missus feeling in that, and that's just that I'm like as a person. I love just being, I just love being pals with people, and I think there's always good to have more pals and have people that are against you. So it's just the way I'm, mate. That's what my missus says. She's like, you're a pure people pleaser, but I like it that way. Do you know what I mean? I don't like enemies. I don't like to speak out of turn about a lot of people, and I like just to try and be as nice a person as you possibly can be, mate.
Life's too short for that, man.
That is, mate. That is, and there's no point in walking about and...
No, you're right. There definitely isn't any point in walking about.
Yeah, so kill my man, honestly. Sharp as attack, mate. Mate, I've got you something talking about the people pleaser.
All right.
Your second birthday, mate. A wee birthday card for me and PG.
All right.
All right, pal. And a birthday cake, mate. Look, 2 cupcakes, mate, for your second birthday, because the podcast is flying, mate. Look, candles and everything there for you, pal. So there you go, my man. Look, happy second birthday. You can have that with a wee cup of tea later.
I will do, man.
All right, mate. Happy birthday, my boy.
That's unbelievable.
Mate, you've done well. We doing podcasts ourselves, mate. It's hard to last a few weeks, mate. Never mind 2 years, mate. So you're smashing it, my man. Well done.
I'm taken aback by that, man.
Nah, listen, mate.
Have you got me sitting here blushing there?
No, well done, mate. Well done, my man.
No, we've been a bit. It's had a lot of ups and downs for sure. Probably more than people realise, I think. I know Paul definitely knows most about it, but I think that I'm excited because it feels like now, like with a bit of consistency, it feels like we're going to get somewhere.
Good, mate.
And I feel like I might know what I'm doing now.
Mate, you're doing great work, mate. It's just unfortunately, mate, you've had to bring your worst guest on the day, mate, with me, you know what I mean? So
not at all.
2 years, mate, some achievement, honestly, it really is, and know how hard that is. Well, PG knows how hard that is. I don't, cause I just turn up, but well done, mate. Congrats, man. Congrats on 2 years.
No, I really appreciate that, man. I can't believe that. Well, see, we're talking about podcasts. We'll come back to the football in a second. For your own podcast, it seems like you're obviously. I sat in here when you were interviewing Nicky Devlin.
Aye, that's right.
Great podcast, by the way. He's another Tumble boy.
He's another one, aye.
He's not a bad footballer himself, right enough.
He's flying. He's doing very well. Do you know what I mean? Very well.
And Paul will tell you, I was talking to him about how impressed I was by the amount of prep he's had and the way that it all kind of came across, very professional, but the detail in it was like, you see a lot of podcasts, like for me, I want to just turn on the mic and chat to you about life and see where it goes, that I think. Mm-hmm. But the detail you put into his career, how it all began, and going through all the different leagues as well, I was really like, oh, this is how you're supposed to do this. This is a level up with what I'm doing.
Mate, I'll be honest with you, Kieran, that's all PG. That is all PG, mate. I would never take one bit of credit for that. He's the prep man. He puts in some amount of work, mate, honestly. And I know that we slag each other and I always wind him up and that. But I think the two is the reason how that it's been working and the podcast has went well is because we're so different, the two is. You know what I mean? I think that PG is he's very prepped. He sets the tone here, and what PG's good at, and all, he just lets me be me. He just doesn't. I just come in and I'm quite like that, Kieran. I just come in and say what I think at the time. I'll just say it. So he's the main man. He preps it and he does that, and I just turn up, and I'd like to hope that I can speak now and again a wee bit of sense about football and that, but the prep he puts in, the work he puts in is unbelievable. And to be honest with you, he's the big driver. I can't maybe get as much time as what PG would like and what I would like sometimes, just because we've got two A's obviously work. I'm in at Pollok now, and I was at Ashfield there for 4 years, and I've always told PG that I can't stop being involved with a team, and it's very difficult because PG, there's a lot of stuff he puts out himself in that. So I'm grateful, and we've got a brilliant relationship with two A's, and I think that's how it works. But he's him and he's a prep man, and I'm the I just
You're the entertainer, mate. You're the Bobby
I don't know about
Williams.
entertainer, mate, but if it was just him, people would be snoozing, man. He is he's very well prepped, man, and thank God, man. At least it makes it sound as if we know what we're talking about sometimes.
You have a great chemistry, because I think what you can tell that you can just kind of roll with anything, and because he's like prepped it to the point where it's an actual specific subject, it makes the podcast flow really well. Like, I hadn't done one for a while, and it kind of gave me the fear watching your one, because I was like, man, I need to get my shit together.
No, mate. I always think everything's different. People respond to different things. People will watch PG and Dak and people will say, that's not for me. Do you know what I mean? Whereas some people will watch another podcast and they'll like it better that you're more off the cuff. I just think it's very difficult to put stuff out there that's going to please everybody. Do you know what I mean? I think you need to be quite thick-skinned in this game. You know what it's you know what it's like. It's like a lot of haters out there. You know what I mean? A lot of people hiding behind maybe a picture on social media and all that, and can start slaughtering people and stuff. But it's as long as you're happy with it and you feel as if it's a true reflection and you're authentic. That's what I think about us. I think that PG's PG on the show and I'm Dak on the show, and the same way I'm on the show is the same way that if I meet you in the street, or I meet somebody anywhere, it's the exact same way I'll be there. So if people like it, amazing. If people don't like it, then that's just me and him. And then if you don't like it, then you don't need to watch. But hopefully, to be honest with you, the feedback we've got has been pretty good there the last year and a half, and we'll just keep doing what we're doing. Do you know what I mean? It's something we enjoy doing, and what I love now is he's the baldy one in the show now, and I'm the one with the cracking head of hair. Oh, mate, it's brilliant to watch, mate. It's brilliant.
Smashing it, man. No, it's a great podcast, and like you've definitely found a specific sort of niche. But for those people that don't maybe know, like, how did this sort of relationship between you and PG begin?
I knew PG kind through like football. We used to play against each other and stuff like that, and then we, through work capacity, the two of us played for a kind of national team in our work, and we knew each other. But I wouldn't say that we were pals and we knew each other, but we weren't tight. Do you know what I mean? We weren't like, didn't text each other, didn't phone each other. But if we seen each other, we would talk to each other. And PG messaged me during the lockdown and says, I'm going to start up a podcast about the West of Scotland. Do you and Maxie, who was a manager at Ashfield at the time, fancy coming on as a guest? And I was like, totally, mate. Anything that gives the West of Scotland exposure, anything that would give Ashfield that wee bit of exposure as well, then we're all for it. And then like a day or two later, he messaged me back saying, I've had to think about it. Do you want to come in and date with me? Because it was originally called the PG Real Football Podcast, because it was his.
You saved us, man.
I know, man. I know, honestly. It was his missus. It was Siobhan that spoke a bit of sense, and I think he said to her, Dak's a bit different to me. He's a character. He knows a lot. He's got a lot of contacts in the West of Scotland football and that. And she was like, why don't you ask him? So I said to my missus, I said to Mrs. Dak, I says, been asked to do this podcast, and she was like, listen, it's lockdown, you're not doing nothing, you're climbing the walls, there's no football on, and why don't you do it? You do it for a few weeks, and if you don't like it, then just say, it's not for me, get a bash. And it's probably the biggest mistake she's ever made, because I've went and done it, and we've loved it, and it's worked out well, and then so I ended up, we just started doing it, and then it just kind of grew for there. And I think it's, the longer it's went on, you can kind of see we're much more comfortable with each other. And I speak to PG basically nearly every day, do you know what I mean now, because we're texting with a chat and stuff like that. So we've ended up getting tight, and I know his family, he knows my family and stuff like that. So no, it's good, and it's mad how it works out, because he let me to yourself. We're two completely different people. You know what I mean? But it seems to be it kind of works that way.
Well, that's why I mean they say opposites attract, don't they? So
Yeah,
there you go.
aye.
What are some of your favourite moments of the podcast then?
See, there have been loads of great. Like, firstly, we've had amazing guests. Everybody we've had on's been amazing ways, and the clubs as well. Let's see the West of Scotland as a whole, like the supporters and the fans of every club and the players and stuff like that. Everybody's been amazing with us. You know what I mean? The clubs have been dead welcoming. I love going out to the clubs and doing wee tours and talking. I love actually. What I love about the podcast is I love talking to people and speaking about football and stuff like that. But I love meeting the people behind the scenes. I love meeting committee members and the unsung heroes. I love going and seeing them and seeing them, because that level of football is absolutely littered with amazing people that have gave years and years of their life to clubs, and they don't do it for financial gain. They just do it for the love for the club. And I love meeting them. I love meeting the supporters of every club. And that, because let's be honest, it's not as glamorous maybe as going and following Rangers, going and following Celtic, because of the success these clubs have and what they've got at their disposal. But seeing pure people, and it's right down characters who give blood, sweat and tears for their club, I love that. But again, mate, we've had amazing guests and amazing laughs. So it's kind of as a whole, there's no one thing in particular. I loved getting about the clubs and meeting the people, and see, I've met people now that are pals now. I speak to a lot now, and it's been through the podcast. So it's another thing like football. It's like how you get more pals out it, and pals for life, and that. I'm grateful for the podcast for that. Do you know what I mean?
Amazing, mate. It's the connection you get. You know, those people are the soul of the clubs, and they really don't get talked about enough, like you say. I mean, even in disability football, everybody, it's all volunteers, you know, and the people that have been there for 10 years, just grinding every week to help people and support people, and they don't get anywhere near the recognition they should. And I think that's why what you guys do is so great, because you're giving light to clubs that maybe don't get it, and you've managed to build a platform that's probably getting more viewership than what they got before. So fair play to you for that.
We put it out there, and to be honest with you, it's the fans of the West of Scotland that have been massive for us, and the players and that as well, and the managers, because their engagement rate's been amazing, and I honestly couldn't thank them enough, because it's brilliant that way. But you're bang on what you're saying, Kieran. It's like you're sitting and people knocking their pan in, and they don't even want to see the amount of clubs we've went to, and they don't want exposure. They don't want their face on the camera, or they don't want to come on for a chat, because they're humble about it, and that's what I find refreshing. And whether or not they come on camera, or whether you're just getting a conversation with them, it's brilliant to see. And quite rightly, it's managers and players that get all the headlines, but it's these people in the background, mate, that make these things tick. And it's the exact same with your football as well. You know what I mean? See the people in the background, you're just like, you admire what they do. Do you know what I mean? Because the time and the effort that they put into it's unbelievable.
It's in the day of social media as well. It's so rare to meet people like that don't want to be in the limelight and don't want to, you know. So it's something really unique about
that's
that.
How, mate. You put a camera. I love being in front of the camera and all that. Whereas it's mad. There's people out there that don't want that. Do you know what I mean? And you need to respect that. There's like Tucker Sloan, who's probably one of the best managers ever at Auchinleck Talbot. He hates it. We wouldn't be able to get him on the show because he's just not his cup of tea. But we respect that. We got to respect that, because that's what he feels comfortable with, and we'll always try and be, as a podcast, respectful to the guests and what they're comfortable saying, or if there's something they've said that they're not comfortable with, then we can talk about making them feel as comfortable as possible. But no, mate, honestly, buzzing.
Has it helped you at all when it comes to actually coaching? Something like when you're talking to somebody like Nicky Devlin, who's playing at the top league and is the captain of one of the best teams in the league, you argue, and do you take things from that?
I feel as if it can help, definitely. I always think that the more people that you've got I always used to say, let's see your phone book, see if you're tight with people and you can text. Like, there's like Cy Ferry, for example, right? I talked to Cy and I've ended up, like, I wouldn't say we're no pure pally, right? But I bump into him, I speak to him, and if I messaged him or that, I know if I could ask for a wee bit of advice about my own coaching. And I remember he said to me once, he said when he was at Peterhead, he was like, "That, come down and watch a session and all that." Do you know what I mean? So having people like that, and even Nicky's a really nice guy as well. And you'd like to think now that they know you and stuff that you could ask them a question. And these guys are really nice people. Well, they would give you advice. But I think the podcast does help as well because your face is known. People kind of, even though you're on a podcast and you're doing a show and people don't know you maybe personally, but they feel as if they do. I'll go to a game and it'll be like fans of clubs and we'll just start talking. And it's like you don't pure know them personally, but because of the podcast and they know you're interested in the West of Scotland and I know that they're a fan of West of Scotland, then you end up just sitting talking about football in West of Scotland or the team that they follow and stuff like that. And I feel as if it does help because at the same time as well, it's speaking in front of people as well, innit? You need to try and grip people. And I think as a coach or a manager, you need to do that. You need to command the respect to the room and you need to. So, no, I definitely do think it helps. I think it helps because I'd like to hope that when I do speak about football, then people think, well, he's all right. He knows what he's kind of talking about a wee bit. And so it does help because your opinions are out there. So hopefully people respect them.
No, exactly. And I think, me and Paul were talking about this the other week when we did a podcast and we were saying about how there's nothing really more important than being able to talk to somebody and connect with them. And I think that when people can watch you and relate to you, that's the most important thing. But as you say, like being able to have that presence and communicate, because you could have the best football brain in the world, but if you kind of communicate what you're wanting to say in a way that, not in a way that you understand, but in a way that the players and people around you understand, then you're never going to be any good. And I think that's been a big sort of change in football, which we'll go on to. But just as you mentioned Cy Ferry there, I can't help but ask, what do you make of this whole open goal Broomhill situation?
I think the open goal thing is like, you see hundreds of different opinions on social media about it. What I think it's brilliant for the club, and it's brilliant for the league that Cy that's got involved. The only thing I don't agree with is the name. I don't agree with Open Goal Broomhill, right? And that's just because I feel as if the club was called Broomhill, it should have stayed Broomhill, and if they wanted to invest in that club, then batter in. I love it. Love to see clubs get fresh investment. Love to see a bit of ambition there as well. So I've got nothing at all bad to say about them getting involved in it, because firstly, as I know Cy, and I've spoke to him at length about football and what his plans are for that. One thing about Cy is he's not going down there for a jolly. Cy is pure, very, very ambitious, very, very ambitious, and he wants success on the park there. So he wouldn't have put his reputation on the line if he didn't believe in it. So I don't think it's going to be this big maybe circus what a lot of people are saying. I think what Cy will do down there is Cy will get a good team on the park, and I think they'll do well. Do I think it will happen right for the get-go? It's debatable because there's good teams in that league. But what I think he'll do is he'll build that club up and they'll be very strong and they'll push to try and get into the leagues. So I totally, I'm all for it. I'm all for the investment and them getting involved in it. And especially the players that they can entice. I've seen it about a month ago, they were getting linked with Lee Griffiths. You know what I mean? And when would you ever see anything like that? So brilliant for that perspective. Cy as a coach will want nothing but success, and he wants to be a success as a manager. And I think the guy's different class. The only thing I just didn't agree with was changing the name and putting the open goal in it, because I think that takes away for the club. Do you know what I mean? You're buying into the club. The club's name should always stay the same. I'm just quite old school in that way that the investment should be there, because even if they just bought the club and it was open goal, it was Broomhill, people would have bought in it anyway because it was Cy, Slaney and all that, and they were all still involved in it, and open goal were in behind the scenes with it. But I don't agree with the name change, but I agree with everything else. I think that the success will be there, and I think Sai's a very talented guy, and I think that with the people in the background as well, they want to win football games, and that's what he's going to want to do. First and foremost, he wants to get 3 points on a Saturday. He's not interested in probably views and stuff like that. Maybe people behind the scenes might, but the main thing for him and his reputation's on the line. I think that's so. In a football perspective, I think it'll be great for that, because I know I'd be buzzing to go and play against them, playing against them and try to make a mark and go and try and make an impression. So I think for that, and I think that teams will be up for it when they play against them. But the only thing I don't agree with is the name, Kieran, really. I think the rest of it can only be a positive. It'll only be a positive for the level. And a lot of people out there they'll have things at their disposal that clubs are maybe a wee bit jealous of, but all the best to him, man. I hope he goes and does well, because Cy Ferry has been nothing but absolutely brand new and spot on with us, and he came on to our show and that as well, and he was a top guy, and I still speak to him, and I really do wish him all the best.
No, I think you've pretty much put the nail on the head there, to be fair. You know, like, having met Cy myself, his intentions are pure, and he just wants to, you know, do the best he can. And I think, like you say, knowing that his reputation's on the line with us, he's going to put everything he has into it. It's not some sort of, you know, piss take thing. I think people get the wrong idea. And, you know, with the Open Goal brand as well, that we do podcasts, we know how difficult it is to get that amount of viewership, to sell at the Hydro and do stuff like that. You know, they did that themselves. And that, you know, deserves all the praise in the world for when you know how difficult that is to do that.
It's scary what they've done, mate. Honestly, it really is scary what they've done. And let's be honest, especially for us that are a football podcast, what they're doing, what they've done in doing the podcast game is a real eye opener, and something that we would all aspire and love to achieve. So what they've done there, so they are so ambitious with what they wanted to do with their podcast, and I think with their football team they're going to be no different. They want to be a success. They want to get into the leagues. They want to be in the senior leagues and progress up the ladder. And I think we sign that there. He's very, very knowledgeable about football. Do you know what I mean? So knowledgeable. So I think that he'll do well there.
And you might well see, you know, this is just a wee teaser, but you might well see a Broomhill Powershire football team in the future.
Could well do, mate. Hopefully, but we see Pollok there as well, mate.
I know, definitely. This is something that I've been, you know, like, obviously my big push is to get the big two involved here, like the two big Glasgow teams, Celtic and Partick Thistle, and then can I go for there? But no, like, you know, so that's been about knowing that they kind of cause a domino effect, you know, and you get them in, and everyone else sort of will follow. But looking at the whole structure, you know, listening to your guys' podcast, I'm like, there's no reason why we can't get all these teams getting Powershire football teams and getting that side of it involved, because all these areas have people in wheelchairs that could play football. And at the end of the day, we all love the game. Isn't it about making sure as many people can play it as possible?
Aye. Well, we're in the west of Scotland. I think that's where they're a wee bit behind when it comes to accessibility for like disabled fans and that. And it's good to see now that the clubs are trying to put a wee bit of work in, because I've been in the level for a few years, and there's a lot of disabled fans that follow West of Scotland football teams, and it's nice to see the clubs are putting things in place that's going to make their experience more enjoyable, and that has been happening. Don't get me wrong, it's taken a wee bit of time, but it's good to see. And I always encourage anybody, go and watch a West of Scotland game. Honestly, see value for money and things like that. Your match day experience is unbelievable. So no, I totally agree with you, mate.
I think, you know, just seeing how everybody's kind of, because this sport is not really something that's very well known in the public eye, right? And I think that the more people actually could hear about it and know about it, you know, they'll see how much it could benefit having it in their teams. Because I've seen firsthand, you know, people talk about the impact football can have. It's like, there's people that, you know, Powershire football saved my life. There's no absolutely no question about it. Like, if it didn't happen at the time that it happened, I wouldn't be here. Like, I'll tell you a wee short story, and by the way, I'm glad I just wanted to kind of cover that Cy Ferry thing, because the own goal thing, because I know there's been a lot of kind of different opinions, like you say, and I think the way you spoke about it was totally correct. It's good that we can sort of have a conversation about it and say that these are the sort of do's and don'ts of what maybe the way they went about it. But you're saying you played in goals, I actually started my football journey as a goalkeeper on my knees, believe it or not. And people don't believe me when I say that. I'm like, look at this picture, man. I was here.
That's how you're bonkers, mate, because you're a goalie. You need to have something all right in the head to be a goalie.
Yeah. And I actually played for a team called West of Scotland.
Did you?
Which is kind of ironic. But played for them for like 4 or 5 years and played football from, like you say, it was all through the summer nights and you'd play every day and it was just, you'd miss your dinner and my knees would come back, I'd be all muddy and be like, what have you been doing, you know? So
times,
they were the best times, man. You didn't realise that the last time you did that was the last time you did that, do you know what I mean?
Nah, you know.
Up at Hunter's Hill playing all day. And
Hunter's Hill, mate.
Hunter's Hill.
Ground.
Remember that? Like, because now it feels so commercialised now, but you used to go past it and it would just be filled with the young teams playing football, man.
I've never seen anybody playing in the grass parks here.
Mate.
Every time I drive by it, the Astro, but nothing else. I see more athletics happening up there than I see football, and it's sad, mate. Sad.
Well, that was something that Sai actually spoke about in the podcast from you. He was talking about how, what everyone's got these kind of high ambitions about, like things like Celtic and Rangers going to England or something crazy like that, but nobody's talking about how we kind of get young kids for the scheme playing football. Do you know what I mean? All the pads are locked for some reason, and it's like, why is this?
See, being honest with you, a lot of people, and I've said that myself here, and I say, like, you drive by these Astro parks and they're locked in that, and I would love it if they opened the doors were left open and kids could just go in and play, but at the same time, these things weren't here when we were young, but it didn't stop us playing football. We played football in streets, we played football in a spare bit of grass, we went up against a wall and just kicked a ball against a wall, so I think that it would be good to see if places opened their facilities and let kids play for free. Totally, I think that it's a waste of facility if they're not even just letting kids go and play in it. But I think that if kids really want it and then you go and play anywhere, you go and do it anywhere. You used to play in the street, mind, and somebody used to be keeping the edgy for the motors coming. And shout, "Here a motor!" And you need to pick the ball up and let the motor go by, and then as soon as the motor went away, you're like, right, get the ball out again and start playing. Do you know what I mean? And don't see that. I don't see that a lot now. Do you know what I mean?
No, mate, I was diving about in concrete. Fuck's sake.
That's what I mean. We were diving in concrete, and people were slide tackling in concrete.
Yeah,
we were playing in red ash parks.
But I think what you're talking about there is kind of a change in society over like our generation to the next.
Yeah,
and we're sort of in a weird middle ground where you've experienced that, and you're seeing this change of like PlayStation 5s and all that. Like, if I could go and play, see when I was like younger, right? See if I could play FIFA the way it is now. I'd have never went and played football, man.
Mate.
Just sitting there.
Like, world's mad now, mate. It's totally changing. It does make you feel old, doesn't it? It's because you're sitting, you're going, look at the change we've seen. Do you know what I mean? So imagine, the change they wants to see is unbelievable. It's not the same as what he used to be. Just out hanging about, do you know what I mean? Used to go out hanging about with Lacoste trackies and Bergosses on. Now I go out and see Wayne's with denims on and polo shirts and that. Know what I mean? I'm like, what's going on here? The trackies.
It's about the TikTok, innit?
TikToks and Instagram, and even we guys, you go to the gym, you see we guys at 16, 17, 18, and they're all built like hussies. They're all machines, whereas I'd never step foot in a gym until I was older, do you know what I mean? We could be here all day talking about how the generation's changing, mate.
That is true.
Say daft podcasters have got a lot to answer for.
No, but it does beg an interesting question in terms of the football world. Like, from when you started playing to now, earlier on you were speaking about how it's important to you to connect with the players and get to know them and sort of let them know that they can come to you and talk to you. How much has that changed from when you start playing to now? Because, everyone talks about the hairdryer treatment. And
I think that people's management styles are always different. Like Davy Gregg, like for example, was my manager at the Rock, and he was one of the best managers I've played under. I had a great time with him, but his style was totally different to a lot of other people. Do you know what I mean? Like Davy was very old school, but he would make you feel 10 foot tall, and you would want to run through a brick wall for him. But at the same time, I remember once I went to tea in the park, and I was on the Bucking Bronco, and I came off and done my ankle ligaments. And I was out for like 4 to 6 weeks I was out for. And I phoned wee Davy when I get back, and I said, Davy, I'm out for 4 to 6 weeks. I've come off a Bucking Bronco. Didn't he speak to me for 2.5 months, 2 months. Went and got a goalie in on loan and all that. And then I managed to get my way back in the team again. But that was old school, you know what I mean? I would run through brick walls for Davy, but I understood where he was coming from, because my stupidity and my actions basically cost myself. But at the time, obviously, I was like, I'm not talking to him, he's not talking to me. You'd walk in for training, he wouldn't speak to you or even look the road you were on and all that. So I had to graft to try and get back in his good books, and it's just pure difference. But whereas I buzzed more off of having a manager like that, because that was just what I liked. I loved characters. He's a character. Loved that, and just you end up hitting it off. But all different managers have all got different approaches, and there's no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong answer, in my opinion. I think it's, if you're getting it right and the players are responding, then you must have a good vibe. It's like, how many good managers do you see going to another team and it doesn't click for them? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't click. It's like, you seen Davy Moyes, he done a good job at Everton, then he went to Man U and he didn't really had it off, and then he's went to West Ham and he's doing really.
Don't think anyone could do better than Man U right now, to be fair.
No, honestly, man, that's crazy what's going on at Man United. You know, it's like, even it shows you how far. I know we're totally going off track, but it's showing you how far Man U have came. They're posting videos of them doing a drill at training, and the fans are pure buzzing off it. I'm like, why are you buzzing off a training session? It's not going right in the park. Go and knock it. It's much easier for players to go. And these guys are meant to be some of the best players in the world, knocking balls about in training, and it looks good when they video it and put it on their social media. But it's what's happening on a Saturday. It's getting 3 points. It's winning football games, and they're not doing that. But then the fans are all going, oh, look at the way he's trying to play the game. Look at this. Like, pure rotten. Do you know what I mean? Pure rubbish. You're expecting it to be good. These guys are getting... The worst players in that team are getting 100,000 a week. You expect them to be able to bump a ball about in training. But fans are buzzing off. It's crazy.
Buzzing that professional footballers can kick a ball.
Aye, buzzing. I seen it the other day. They were doing like a wee, it was like a wee rondo. It was like, and now the fans are going, look at the way like the new managers try to play football, and it did look really good. It was impressive. But I'm sitting going, I know, but they can't win football games. So it's all good, well and good. Do you know what I mean? But they need to start winning games. They need success. They need to be winning trophies. That's what it's all about. It's just my opinion.
No, definitely. Did you see the? Somebody, so that training video you're talking about, right? Somebody replied to it with the same training video from when he was at Ajax.
Right.
And the difference in speed to it was unbelievable. Like, it made that look so bad. Like,
it made the Man U one look bad.
Yeah, it made it look so bad. Like, these players just don't care. And, you know, like, when I was like a teenager, Man United were massive. Like,
they were the best.
Nobody was anywhere near them, man.
They were the kiddies, but listen, they'll come back at some point. They're going to... One of these managers are going to get it right at some point. They just need the time, but it's a lot of good managers went there and they've not been able to get it right. Do you know what I mean?
I just think as well, when you look at, you know, sort of the big clubs in mainstream football, you are seeing that sort of change in that, you know, we live in that age where mental health is like a really big topic for everybody, and trying to sort of get people to speak about things and be open. And you've kind of seen that everywhere through society, but especially in football, when you look at like how the difference between somebody like Sir Alex Ferguson to somebody like Klopp, who they almost look at like a father figure. Do you know what I mean? But maybe they looked at Sir Alex Ferguson as a father figure just in a different way. And I think that you're seeing, you know, as you're dealing with young players coming through, that seems to be more of a focus. Like, you could be the best coach in the world, but if somebody turns up and you're telling that guy's a dick, you're not going to get in through them.
Aye, it's a guidance, I think. Let's see see if you put Sir Alex Ferguson, I think there's still loads of, I know everything's getting new and all that, but there's still plenty of room for that old school mentality. I think you can't lose that, but I think a lot of people are losing it. I think you even through my experience, even doing it at West of Scotland, players don't like getting a wee bit of the hairdryer. They don't like getting told they don't know doing something right. They're easy for them to spit the dummy and say, "Oh, I'm rapping it. This isn't for me." But when you look at it, see Sir Alex Ferguson, the success and the players he managed, they were all top players, and he always could let them go when it was the right time to let them go and get new players in. But see, even daft things like Jesse Lingard, he's more into TikTok now than that. Obviously, he will graft and but he's doing stupid TikToks and that. See, if that was Sir Alex Ferguson, he would be taking his phone off him and saying, "Stay on the park, concentrate on football, and then you can do all the rubbish."
Yeah.
At a better time. But it's every time I see Jesse Lingard, it's more for what he's doing, TikToks and all that, rather than what he's actually doing on the park. And I think that obviously it's changing. Social media and TikToks and Instagram and all that is all really big. But first and foremost, man, you want to be success in your career. You want to win things. You want to be known as a player that won this, that, the next thing. You want to be old and have your grandwains and saying, "That's my Champions League medal, that's my league winners, multiple league winners," and all that, rather than showing them a TikTok video when you're dancing in New York City and all that. And you know what I mean? I just think that get it right on the park, back it up first, and then start dishing it out.
For sure, mate. I think it's almost like being a celebrity is more important at times.
Aye.
You know, and it is good to an extent that players are looking at what their career is going to look like after football.
Aye.
And there's more opportunities for that. Whereas there was a lot of players that sort of, you know, they would have their career and it might end abruptly or whatever, and they don't really know where to go next. Now there's so many avenues from coaching to podcast to social media, all these different things, and that's probably a good thing. But it's having that line, and Man United has kind of became one of those clubs where like they've not got that right line.
See, even for that on that same topic, like see for me, right, I love the podcast and it's good to be known, and you do the podcast and it's like people will say, "Oh, I really like your podcast," and that. But see, for me, I would get everything. I would leave the podcast tomorrow if it meant that I was going to win things with Ashfield and Pollok when I was at Ashfield and then I went to Pollok. See, if somebody says to me, you can leave the podcast tomorrow, but you'll go and win the league and you win a cup or whatever with Pollok, I would do it, because I want to be, when I'm older, there a legacy there. At least you can go back and you can say, "I won the league with Pollok, I won the West of Scotland Cup with Pollok," and that. I want more success on that. It's good to see the podcast doing well, and it's always nice to get people speaking nicely about it and nice feedback from people. But first and foremost, for me, I'm a football guy. I want success at Pollok and I wanted success at Ashfield, and we got success at Ashfield for what the role was. But for me, first and foremost is I want success there. I want to win things there. Do you know what I mean?
That's probably why people enjoy listening to you, because they can feel that passion coming from you.
Aye.
You talk about it. And, you know, you were at Ashfield for quite a while.
Yeah.
You've obviously spoke about this before, but just, you know, for people that don't know, in terms of that, was that a difficult decision for you to make?
To leave Ashfield?
Yeah.
It would always be difficult. One thing about me, Kieran, I'll wear my heart on my sleeve when it comes to football, and I fell in love with that club. You know what I mean? I love that club, and I kind of had a brief playing spell there. Didn't play much, to be honest, but I was part when they were having their success. Ashfield, I was there, but as I said, I wasn't playing. But I fell in love with the club, and I love the club. I love the boys there. I love the very small committee that they had. They end up getting really close with the guys and great characters at that as well. As I said, I loved the players, and for the main thing for me was leaving was because the gaffer was leaving, Maxie. Do you know what I mean? He gave me the opportunity, which I'm very thankful in, and I love Maxie for that, and I'll be forever grateful, and I learned so much, and he put a lot of trust in me, and Ryan Kelly, who was another Tumble boy, was in there as well, and they were amazing for us. But it was very difficult to leave. When I knew Maxie was leaving, I probably could have thrown my hat in the ring to maybe try and get the job, but my head was wanting to do it, but my heart was saying I shouldn't, because I couldn't invest the time, and I think it was the right time to give somebody else the job, a fresh face, a new ideas, a wee injection, just a bit of freshness to the club. And I think after 4 years, the players probably, even though how hard it was and how great a relationship I had with them, I think they needed that wee bit of freshness brought in. And it was very difficult, mate. But it was probably easier because the gaffer was leaving. If the gaffer wasn't leaving, then it probably would have been a different decision. But I felt as if I kind of started with him 4 years ago, so the right thing would have been to finish up, and I thought that was fair. The right thing to do with Maxi, to walk out with Maxi, and it's also the right thing not to hang about the club when somebody new came in, because I think that you need to let the guys go and do their own thing. I was part of the old regime. You need to give guys the opportunity, and I was just fortunate enough that the opportunity came up with Murdy at Pollok, but I will be forever grateful. It was I'd seen that as kind of apprenticeship as well, because we had to do so much behind the scenes at Ashfield, especially the gaffer and Riser, but we've done a lot of work there, and it stood. I think it stood me in good stead, because what I'll always be is I'll always be humble when it comes to what you get. Like, I've only been at Pollok for a few weeks now, and the contrast is unbelievable, and I love Ashfield and that, but I'll always be humble and always appreciate all these things that people do, because you should never take it for granted. And I think sometimes players can maybe take things for granted. The players that play for the bigger clubs are maybe used to that treatment, but see, when the further down the level you go, you need to appreciate everything, all the good things that clubs actually do for you.
For sure, and I think that, the whole being able to stay objective about things in football is hard.
Yeah,
because you're so connected to it and you're so passionate about it, that to be able to look at the big picture and be like, it's hard for me to leave Ashfield, but what's the best thing for the club? And that's obviously what you've done.
And it was the best thing for the club. And to be honest with you, when the opportunity I moved to Pollok comes up as well, and because I know Murdy really well, the manager, and honestly, I was, as soon as I met him, I was like, wow, unbelievable. And even to have a guy like that wanting you to be part of their club and be part of Pollok. Pollok's massive, do you know what I mean? Even when I played, Pollok were one of the biggest clubs, if not the biggest club in the country. And for me to get that opportunity to go to that club, and I've said that, you know what I mean, I'll wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'll fall in love with Pollok, do you know what I mean? Hopefully, personally, I'm there long enough to do that, but I'll fall in love with that club, and I'm now fully invested in Pollok. I want the club to get success. I want the players to enjoy coming to training. I want them to enjoy their Saturdays. I want the fans to be buzzing every Saturday night. I want them going up the road happy, but also I want the gaffer to get success, because if he gets success and the club gets success, then that means as a whole, then we're all getting success, and it's a no-brainer. It's been unbelievable the first few weeks in at the club, and the quality and standard of players absolutely frightening. Do you know what I mean? It's and even the club as a whole, it's a tremendous setup, and I just can't wait for the games to start, mate.
I'm very excited for you, man. I need to get along one of these games,
mate. You come along any time, mate, and Dak will make sure you're in, and you'll get your pie, eat a pie and a juice and all that, mate. You get well looked after.
No.
You get the hospitality, mate. You'll be hanging, you'll be well looked after, mate. You let me know, and always welcome down at Pollok, because we've been doing with the podcast a few times before I've joined there, and they've always did really good hospitality and been brilliant. So to be part of the club now and see what it's like, it's good down there on match day, Kieran, do you know what I mean? There's big crowds. If you pick one of the big games to come down to, it's a right good atmosphere, and they've got the floodlights in now, and they're in the big Scottish Cup and that, so there's loads for the club to look forward to, and now me being part of the coaching staff is, I can't wait to get going, and working with some of the management team as well, with Baggis and Budgie. Budgie's an experienced guy as well. I can't no learn for the three guys, do you know what I mean? And I'm going to learn, and I'm 36 and I'm on the coaching staff at Pollok. I'm proud, but I'm also going to knock my pan in for the gaffer, knock my pan in for the club, and that's just my feelings on it, mate. Do you know what I mean? I'll give everything. I want it to work out.
You can feel your energy about it, mate.
That's the way it is, and the boys are great boys as well. I was fortunate enough I knew a lot of them before I went in as well, so getting in and the standard of signings that the gaffers made, really exciting for the club, and I think that there'll be a wee bit of excitement starting to build up amongst the support. They've started announcing some of the signings and that as well, and I think we're all just looking forward to the football coming back, and the game starting, and seeing where it takes us. It's going to be difficult, but
see, in terms of the I was quite curious, like, because you're obviously a coach and analyst.
Aye.
The analyst part of it was something that caught my eye because I feel like that kind of role in football has probably changed a lot over the last
Yep.
decade or so. Because you always had that sort of, in terms of analysing something, it was always like we're going to go and watch these games, and now it seems like a lot of the stuff is maybe on computers and looking at stats and stuff like that.
Yep.
So what is your kind of style with it? Are you looking at would you be looking at stats on things like that?
I'm no massive on stats, Kieran. I'm more like I like to watch, either watch a game back or and kind of just see how patterns of play are working, or kind of where our strengths and weaknesses are, or are there things that we should be doing better on that. So I'm not a big like stats about possession, and I think that sometimes that can be a bit false. You know what I mean? You've seen games in the past where teams have had 80% possession and lost the game. So I'm no massive on stats like that, but what the gaffer and what I've been doing for him is I've been breaking down a lot of games for last season. I've watched all of the games for last season that they've played. I've kind of tried to break it down and see where I think that we could go, what we could do better, maybe what we're really good at as well. We've got to focus on the positives as well. So no, the analysis is massive as well. I think you see a lot of clubs changing and it's going down that route. I think it's massive for the progression of the club, and I really, I can't thank Murdy enough, because it's a lot of trust in somebody to do that as well, because I'm gathering information, he's respecting my views on football, and then I'm going back to the gaffer with a lot of things, and I think it's just about breaking it down, seeing what we're good at and seeing what we're not so good at, and trying to make improvements there and making improvements through training and that. So no, it's a kind of newer role, and it's one that I'll probably have to get better at. But at the same time, I just like sitting watching the football and watching games back and what we done well, how we opened a team up, how we never defended a situation quite as well as what we should have. How could we avoided conceding that goal? Is there patterns of how we're conceding goals, or are we scoring goals for the same areas and stuff? So it's just about trying to spot wee trends and stuff like that. So doing that, and the gaffer's been brilliant, letting me get in and get a bit of coaching with the boys done as well. So no, it's a big role, and a lot of it's new, but I'm excited about it.
From what I've seen at that level as well, everything seems so, it's very fine margins. There's not much in it. So to have somebody that's looking at that detail could be the difference between 3 points.
Yeah, well, Darvo they've got a data analysis now, and it is, you're bang on what you're saying. The margin for error is very, very small. You've got Darvo, who are a really good side. You've got Talbot, you've got Clydebank, you've got Cowan Rangers. They're all very good sides. So I think that it's going to be really interesting. As you say, it could be the difference between drawing a game, winning a game. It could be winning a league or whatever. Do you know what I mean? The fine margins, and I think that's what Murdy's brilliant at. He's very attention to details is bang on. He wants everything really, really organised, really well prepped, both on the training part and after park as well. He's really driven in that as well. So we all need to pull together. Do you know what I mean? I'll be working in with the management team, and we'll all work together, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that's the wee difference that hopefully can kick us on, and hopefully try and, because they had a great season last season and maybe just tailed off towards the end. But let's hope now we can just carry that on right through and try and win the league, because it's Pollok Football Club. There's no finishing second's no good enough. Do you know what I mean? And it's mad, because the way I see it anyway, if it might all be good you finish runner up. I don't want to finish runner up, and I know the guys in there don't want to finish runner up. You either win the league, or it's not been a successful season. You need to go and try and win every cup that you're in as well. You need to go and try and win everything, and that's just the mentality that we need to have for the management team right through to the players. And if the players buy into that, which I know they will, then we shouldn't be too far away.
Exactly, mate. It drives you when there's a club that wants to be at the top. You know what I mean?
Aye.
You can see a passion for it, man. I think it's safe to say Pollok's in good hands, mate.
Well, hopefully, mate. Hopefully they were in good hands before I went, but hopefully I can just add a wee bit something different that maybe they've not got, and hopefully it all just clicks into place, and that's what we hope. Do you know what I mean? We're under the illusions that we need to get it right. Always need to get it right, or we'll not be in a job. It's as simple as that, because Pollok deserve the best. They deserve to be winning things, and if we can't bring that, then they'll go and get somebody that can. So we have to deliver, mate. It's as simple as that.
Well, if you want somebody to come on and do wheelies at half time, give us a shout.
Mate, wheelies, mate. Honestly, man, I'm telling you, mate.
That would get a TikTok, by the way.
Mate, you got a TikTok doing wheelies, you know what I mean? But
people love it.
Oh, mate, unbelievable. Get you on for a few wheelies, mate. Brand new.
It went, I went too long with the mate in a wheelchair joke, mate. I had to say something.
Mate, listen.
Yeah, that's
your, mate. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying anything, mate.
I mean, it's interesting though, because like one of the big things I say in this podcast all the time is about how these kind of conversations, like people probably don't see somebody in a wheelchair having these kind of conversations.
Aye.
And that's kind of what it's all about. It's like try to actually show that like I can sit with you, and people might see me in the street and be like, he couldn't sit and talk to Dax about football.
Aye.
But I can, you know what I mean? And that way it shows. It's try to take that stigma away for disability and things like that. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, I think what you're doing is amazing, mate. I think what you're doing for the exposure for the football and that as well, for your wheelchair football and stuff is unbelievable, and you're massive behind that, and the work you're doing. You've spoke more sense about football than what PG would, man. See if I could ditch him in 2 minutes, mate. I would get you on and put him in the bin, know what I mean?
Well, I'll come on the podcast.
Mate, we'll get you on, man. We'll get you on. We'll do a wee behind the drill, get you doing wheelies, man, and we'll get a wee game on the go.
Do you know what might be a good, as you're saying that, like, I always thought it'd be quite a cool visual, because my chair, like, so there's like a specific chair you get for wheelchair football, right? It's not this one, it's like faster than this, has a bumper at the front. See, actually, what I might do is pull up a wee clip of it, post-production, just for people to see as they're watching this.
Aye.
But it's just, because it looks a lot more like football than people realise. If you went and watched it, you would think, oh, it's a football game. And, I always thought it'd be cool if, like, if I came in my chair and was playing with the ball with people that were standing up, because then it would show that you could all play together, type of thing.
100%.
So I could maybe come down and show you something.
Kieran, honestly, see anything like that, mate. I'm up for anything like that, and see if it's doing something. That'd be brilliant, mate.
I think that'd be a good exposure, man.
Pull one of the other Scotland players in.
I mean, I'm the best.
2v2, you know what I mean? 2v2.
2v2, mate.
PG Dak versus Scotland national team, mate. We'll get a wee game in the go.
Tell you what, man, that would be quite. I think people would like that. Because as well, like, people have this idea because it's a power chair and it's not. Every time I say it, they think, "Oh, is it like basketball? The wheelchair basketball?" No, it's not, mate. It's not. It's not. It's not like the wheelchair basketball. And they think that because it's it's powered, that it's kind of it looks easier than it is. I feel like once they get in the chair and they're moving about, they're like, how sensitive is this thing? That it's impossible.
I know, mate. I know. It's brilliant, mate. It's brilliant, mate. Honestly, I just love seeing people getting involved with football at any levels or any thingies, and that's exactly what it's all about. Do you know what I mean?
For sure. And I feel like I'm remembering and knew that I sidetracked all the way back through it. There was like a story I was telling, and then we sidetracked all the way to Manchester United.
That's my fault, mate.
No, that's what you want in a podcast, mate, because it's like that makes it easier. But the point I was trying to make about playing in goals and knees and all that was talking about power football, and I don't always take the time to mention this, but I think because you're such a big football podcast and people are going to tune in, I think it's important to give them a chance to get an idea of what I'm talking about. Like, I played for this team for like 4 or 5 years, and I would play in snow and all sorts of disgusting weather on my knees, mate. And I was just mad for it. And at that time of my life, it was the thing that gave me joy. It was the thing that I came in. I was only getting a wheelchair, but we all had physical disabilities, and I felt like I could relate to them. I felt like I was part of our community, and the coach was a very hard man. You could tell that he had a bit of a fragile ego, and but I loved that. I loved because you get so babies, mate. See, being in a wheelchair, see the amount of people that will be like treat you as if you're not. Like, I want to be pushed. I want to compete. I'm not here for participation prizes. You know what I mean? I want to play football and win, and he really, people like that really pushed me, but it ended really badly because by the end of it, there was a night basically where we had a wee do after a game, and they all asked who was coming, and I put my hand up and all that. They knew that I was coming, and I brought my whole family there and all that, and I had 2 flights of stairs going down to it.
Aye.
And my mum and that were raging, man. They were raging. And I was like 15 at the time, and I was like, let's just leave it, go back, it's fine, whatever. And I tried not to make a big deal about it. I just wanted to move on and be like, listen, this is too important to me for it to be, it was just one wee night, and I didn't realise I didn't have access, and they were saying that they told me and all that.
Yeah.
But they hadn't said it, man. And I turned up to training the next week, man. As I'm reversing out the car, the two coaches, I got there early. 2 coaches see me reversing out the car. They run towards the door, and they stand there with their arms folded, and they say, "We're sorry to inform you, you're now not ambulant enough to play for our football team.
Aye.
But you can come in and have a goodbye session." And I was like, "What? That doesn't. First of all, that makes no sense, because if you're saying I can't play, but I can play tonight, then all you're telling me to do, all you're really doing is discriminating against me."
Aye.
But I honestly can't tell you a moment in my life that was more heartbreaking than that. I was 15 years old, and it was such a devastating sort of thing that happened to me, because it was the only thing that I cared about at the time. I couldn't say anything. I remember when they told me, I just sat there in shock and left. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know whether to be angry or cry or whatever. And that kind of started a sort of the cycle of me getting involved in drinking and drugs quite early in my life. And so it shows you how much a negative experience that can affect you. But the reason why power chair football comes into this, and why it's eventually a happy ending, is because about 2 weeks after that was the first ever power chair football Scottish Cup. And this was the early days in the sports. But I had been like, I'm not playing football ever again. I'm done. I was totally just devastated by it all, and didn't want to be involved in it anymore. And the coach at the power chair football team, Stuart Atkinson, he pushed me to come. He was like, really put his arm around me, and he was like, "No, I think you could be a really big guy in this sport, and you should come and don't let them put you off something you love and all that." And my mum and dad and that were pure hurt by it all. They could see how hurt I was, and so I kind of went for them and Stuart more than me, and I ended up going to that tournament. And one of the reasons why I didn't really like power chair football earlier on is because I felt so uncomfortable being in the chair, and I didn't feel really comfortable being around people in wheelchairs, because it reminded me of the position that I was in, and there was just something about it that didn't sit with me well, because of how I'd been treated, and it had a really negative effect. But going to that game, man, and ended up getting to the Scottish Cup final and winning it, and I scored a hat-trick in the final. And I remember like looking up, and my dad's a pure kind of guy you look at and you never see any emotion of him in his life. And he's sitting up there in tears and all that, and you're like, it was such a, sometimes in life the timing of things can be so important.
Yeah.
And the timing of that was so crucial to me being back in love with the game and staying in the game. And I'm so grateful for it. Shows you how important it is to have somebody that can put their arm around you and encourage you to do these things. And that's one of the things that, as I'm going to be going into coaching power chair football quite soon. And, I've been at Clyde. We're not Clyde anymore because of the whole David Goodwillie fiasco. But before that, we were Clyde for about 8-9 years. And the people there made such a difference in just making you feel welcome, making you feel like you weren't disabled first, you were a footballer first.
Yeah, that's the way it should be, but
and that you really don't get that many places in life, man. And see, going into the coaching aspect of it now, I'm looking at it and I'm going, I want people to feel that as they come in, like you say. And like you're talking about leaving Ashfield and stuff like that, like my thing that I've been pushing in this podcast this whole time has been trying to get these big clubs involved, and getting like somebody like Celtic involved. Obviously I'm a Celtic fan, and trying to get them involved was like a really big pipe dream of mine for a bunch of different reasons that I've spoke about at length. And try to give young kids in wheelchairs the chance to dream of playing for the club that they love and things like that. But it was such a pipe dream for me for so long, and through this podcast and through people listening to my story and listening to things I'm talking about, it's gathered some momentum. I've managed to talk to the right people, and and it looks like we may actually be able to pull this thing off. In fact,
Brilliant, mate.
by the time this comes out, I'll hopefully be a Celtic player, and that'll be, even just saying that in news, amazing to me. But what was kind of surprising though was I got this Facebook memory the other day, and it was like for 4 years ago when I put that big post about how much Clyde meant to me and winning the Player of the Year award and all that, and I haven't actually announced leaving there yet, and it was strange because I was like, this is more difficult. It's much more difficult than I thought it was going to be.
Nah,
I thought, it was Celtic, you would just be like, I'm just going to, this is just what I need to do. And I know it's what I need to do and I'm going to enjoy it. But it's also like, this has been a big part of my life and I'm leaving it behind now.
Yeah.
So, it takes a lot to kind of put that to one side and be like, I'm just going to stop talking until that door's shut now. We've got editing for probably that. No, it does. It takes a lot to put that to one side and be like, this is what's right for the sport and for the longevity of keeping it going. Because you know as much as I do, like trying to keep these things. All I've been thinking about for the past year or so is how can we make sure that 20 years from now, power chair football is still here. Who's going to, because you can't always rely on loads of volunteers to come in and dedicate their life.
I think what you've done, firstly, mate, I've admire what you're doing, Kieran. I think that setbacks, you've bounced back for a setback, says more about your character, mate, than anything else, you know what I mean? Top, big character. To win a Scottish Cup, mate, I'm envious, mate. It's something that I could never have. I've never won in my days, mate, and to get a hat-trick and on the final, mate, it's unbelievable. But you can love a club and that affection and affinity will always be there. But sometimes you've got to do what's right for your own career and your own development as a player and as a coach and stuff, and test yourself. And this is no disrespect to Clyde. This is just me for outside. I think that if you're doing power chair football at Celtic and Rangers, and they start getting involved with things like that, let's be honest, most kids out there, and like, whether this kids with disabilities or whether it's just any kid, that they're going to support Celtic or Rangers. And if the clubs are showing support for power chair football and that, then it's going to inspire the next generation, mate. So for power chair football, for your own development, you being a massive push for that sport, then it's the right move for you, mate. You'll be pulling on the hoops and all that, mate. Do you know what I mean? I don't get me wrong. She should be the blue half of Glasgow should be wearing, mate. But that's only going to grow the sport, and seeing the club get behind it, mate. It should be happening anyway. That's what Celtic and Rangers are clubs that they say is inclusive to all. You know what I mean? So that's what they should be doing. They should be, as you said rightly yourself, it's like you're playing football. Anybody that plays football, whether it's power chair football, the football with disabilities, whether it's any type, you've got to encourage it. You want to see people playing. You want to see young kids playing. You know what I mean? You don't want people deterred because there's people not doing enough, mate. So hats off to you, mate. Congrats, mate, and well done, mate.
Cheers, mate. You end up being the Rangers manager, so I
mean, I'll be the Rangers manager, all right. See, when we play against you, I'll be like, make sure he doesn't get a hat trick. No, I'll be putting a Man Martin job on you.
I think this is where the podcast kind of comes full circle, because at the start of the podcast, we were talking about how in school football was such a important part of you being able to have that social life and connect with people as you came in. And that's one of the big things I'll talk about is like when you're a kid in that kind of environment, having that sort of outlet and having that hope of, this is something that I know I can do and I know I can enjoy. No people in wheelchairs don't have that, and I didn't have that, and it alienates you to a certain point. But what I think about is like, football, the sport itself is fantastic, but the bigger picture is what it does for the perception of people. They could watch a power chair football game and be like, these guys can play football, and kids in wheelchairs can go to school and talk about it and be like, did you see that power chair football game last night? Do you know what I mean?
Mate, it's class, mate. It's dead refreshing, mate, because as I said, I don't know pure loads about it, but ain't done that. I always said that about our podcast. It was always a case of like, we want to cover West of Scotland football, but it's also important that you use the podcast. I think anyway that you try and use your podcast to spread good messages. You know what I mean? Try and address good situations. So you're doing massive work for Power Chair Football, which is amazing, and doing this podcast is probably helping you get into a club like Celtic and that as well, and the exposure that it's getting, and quite rightly so. But even us with the podcast with PG and Dak, we've covered like mental health with Isaac Connolly's charity, we've covered gambling with Paul Pettigrew, we've done lots of different things, you know what I mean? We're trying to cover racism and that. So I think that it's also in addiction with Mary Hill Milan and that. So I think that it's important that although we talk about things we love, try and spread the awareness of things out there that people are struggling with, mate, and that and that's something that you're passionate about as well. And I'm sure you've spoke loads in the past about getting into drugs and drinking and all that, do you know what I mean? And people need to hear all this as well, because that's the stuff that people are struggling with day on day. But to use the podcast as well, your own podcast to get that Power Chair Football message out there, mate, quite rightly so, mate. You know what I mean? It's something you're passionate about. It's like me with West of Scotland and football, mate. I'll talk so passionately about it because I'm passionate about it. I love it. Do you know what I mean? So good on you, mate.
I think when you kind of realise, like, if I don't do this, who's going to do it? You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
100%, mate.
And, you know, that, what you're talking about there, like, I think there's nothing better you can do than to help someone through something. And that's what, you know, talking and podcasts and all that, that's what it can be about, the bigger picture of supporting people and letting them know that you can go through the horrible times and come through them and be okay and know that there is hope there.
That's what you'll get a buzz out of coaching as well, and the buzz I get because seeing players and helping them and seeing them progress or kick on or things going well for them. You get some buzz out of that and being there for somebody as well. Do you know what I mean? That's that's the next part. I get a buzz out of that as much a buzz as what I did when I was playing. Do you know what I mean? That's why I love coaching. I love to try and push people on and stuff like that.
We did a wee, you know, Easter break sort of taster sessions and that, and honestly, mate, the buzz of seeing people enjoying themselves and learning things and just having a good time and knowing it was because of what you were saying.
Yeah.
And you know, our community is small, but to be in a position where you can have that kind of impact to somebody is just such an incredible feeling.
Power Chair Football will be the exact same as any type of football. Football is one of the things that I think if you've got trouble in your outside life, or you've got stress, or you've got things that are not quite right outside, that you can hopefully turn up to your training or your game, and it's the one time that you can actually put things to the back of your head, concentrate on the football and forget about your issues or your troubles, or maybe the rubbish you're going through, or you're going through a bad time here, and concentrate on your football. And then obviously that's what it is. It's seeing people smile, man, seeing people enjoying themselves. First and foremost, you want to win. That is me as a coach. I want our team to be successful and win. But you know what I want as well, and I get a buzzer, seeing players smiling. Players smiling, walking in the door, buzzing off a session, walking out and you go, they've enjoyed that tonight and I've enjoyed it. Or you see them smiling, a bit of camaraderie, and you see them walking out the session, they're smiling, they're happy. And I think that's all part of being a good coach as well, mate.
Absolutely, mate. That's what matters. Well, I think that's a really great note to finish on.
Aye, mate, it's been brilliant.
And see, while we're talking about this as well, see, when we get the Power Chair Football League starts in October, right? I'm going to get you dates. It'd be great to get PG
mate, we'll come down and do a vlog, mate.
That would be amazing,
we'll do a vlog, because you know we do the vlogs where we go to a game and that, and when you get back up and running, mate, definitely keep us posted, and we'll get down and we'll do a wee Power Chair vlog, mate. And
that would be brilliant, mate.
Get involved and try and get that wee bit of exposure as well, mate. Sounds good to us.
Love it. Well, thanks for coming on, mate. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Top man, honestly. Thanks for having us, Kieran, mate. You're some man,
and
mate.
Cheers for the birthday present and all that.
That's all right, mate. That's all good, mate. Very well deserved. And thanks again for having us, mate. I really appreciate it.